The Philippines is home to vibrant palenques, or wet markets, that reflect the history of the place and their unique offerings that were shaped by both local and foreign influences. One such market is Arranque, a Filipino palenque with a Spanish name notable for its abundance of Chinese ingredients. Established more than a century ago, the Arranque market is located at the heart of Manila, the Philippines' capital city, and is the only wet market in the metropolis that sells live animals as pets or for slaughter as food. Arranque Market boasts of its uniqueness and reliability, making it well-loved by patrons from Metro Manila and beyond, especially the Filipino-Chinese community. The market is actually composed of two separate markets. The government-owned public market is uniquely located underground beneath a privately owned building. It includes a meat shop section, a dry goods section, a live animal section, and a pet shop section. Upon visiting, one will find brightly painted animal cages spilling out onto the sidewalks. Meanwhile, at the private market, fresh seafood, fruits and vegetables, as well as Chinese spices and ingredients are sold. The COVID-19 pandemic is believed to have originated from a wet market in Wuhan, China. As a result, around the world there has been increased attention on wet markets as a potential source of future outbreaks. Sanitation and hygiene measures are therefore critical in wet markets such as Arranque. In the Philippines, there are numerous policies governing biosecurity in wet markets which are implemented in Arranque, such as regular meat inspections and general cleaning of the entire market premises every Monday. However, inadequacies in sanitation and hygiene practices can also be observed. In the meat section, various cuts of meat are displayed at the stalls, exposed to the elements. Using their bare, gloveless hands, meat vendors exchange money with customers or adjust their face masks and then poke at their fresh meat. Cages of animals sold as pets, such as dogs and hamsters, are placed next to the cages of animals to be slaughtered for consumption, like chickens and rabbits. Some vendors even mix different species and breeds in one cage. Meanwhile, the slaughterhouse is a makeshift structure without standardized equipment and facilities, with workers both recklessly and resourcefully using whatever material is available, such as plastic drums and dirty tubs. Slaughterers and caretakers also do not wear any protective gear when handling the animals. Nonetheless, customers and vendors alike vouch for the safety of the meat and live animals sold because of trusted suppliers and complete certifications. Workers do not seem to associate the spread of any particular foodborne illnesses or other types of diseases with working at the market or consuming the meat sold there. Instead, they are more concerned with the possibility of diseases spreading not from animals to human beings, but from one animal to another animal instead. Another potential source of disease outbreaks is a tightening of the interface between humans and wildlife. For instance, through the sale of wild animals in markets. In Arranque, wildlife or exotic animals such as myna birds, cockatoos, and various reptiles have been sold discreetly in the past. However, due to heightened enforcement of wildlife trade laws, and also partly due to the pandemic, the sale of such wild animals is reportedly not anymore occurring. While there is little concern about the next pandemic potentially arising from Arranque, there is some concern that wet markets can be a place for community transmission of COVID-19. Hence, a diverse array of pandemic control measures has been imposed on wet markets like Arranque, such as limited operating hours, one entry, one exit policy, and use of quarantine passes. However, adherence to pandemic restrictions at Arranque became visibly lax over time. Vendors and customers alike were not diligently wearing masks or observing social distancing anymore, probably due to the perception that vaccines already provide enough protection against the coronavirus. Nonetheless, vendors lamented over the effects of the pandemic restrictions on the wet market, specifically the lessened foot traffic, leading to little to no sales. The closure of establishments such as Chinese restaurants and the restriction of transport from nearby provinces also created the chain reaction that ultimately affected the entire supply chain of food. There was less demand from consumers and less supply from sources, which forced vendors to sell their products at higher prices. Vendors were also forced to become more creative in their operations, such as the introduction of online selling and delivery to loyal customers. Although international concerns on biosecurity at wet markets did not generally threaten the survival of the Arranque market, the pandemic restrictions are certainly a huge financial blow to its stakeholders. For the past century, Arranque has witnessed dramatic changes and survived the test of time. Its further transformation, as it enters the era of pandemics, is yet to be seen.